Hello and welcome to how to play Genshin Tarot in 5 minutes or less. Genshin Tarot is a 2 to 4 player co-op card game. The game is played over the course of rounds, and each round is divided between the player phase and enemy phase. During the player phase, all players will take their turns simultaneously, so there is very little downtime in this game. During your turn, you'll be playing actions cards out of your hand of 5 cards. Each card costs 0, 1, or 2 actions, but you only have 3 action points per round to play with. Players familiar with Slay the Spire will be very comfortable with the system. You have a deck of 20 action cards, uniquely built from the 4 characters you are playing as. With 22 characters in the base game, and 14 more in the first expansion, there's literally tens of thousands of party combinations. When you play an action card, you'll simply perform its effect exactly as written. Mostly, these cards will deal damage to the enemies in your zone. Your zone is this pyramid of enemies right in front of you. If a card allows you to target an enemy anywhere, this means you can help your allies and damage the enemies in their zone as well. Sometimes a card will say it deals piercing damage, and that's because some enemies have these pesky shields. If an enemy has a shield, it won't take any damage unless that damage is piercing. How do you get rid of these pesky shields, you ask? Well, with elemental reactions, of course. The bread and butter of Genshin Impact's combat system is boiled down elegantly for this board game recreation. When a card says to apply an element to an enemy, simply place a marker of that type on the enemy. You cannot apply the same element to the same enemy twice. But if this is the second element being applied to the enemy, that triggers a reaction. Every reaction always removes 1 shield token. Additionally, each reaction will trigger a unique effect, detailed in this handy dandy reaction table. Alright, so you've played some action cards, dealt some damage, applied some elements, and now you and your friends are all out of action points. The player phase now ends, and everybody discards any remaining cards in their hand. Then draw back up to 5 cards. Remember, this happens at the end of your player phase, not at the start. Once the player phase ends, it is now the enemy phase. Look at the face of enemies in your zone. From left to right, they will attack you, dealing damage equal to their attack. This is bad, because if your health ever goes down to 0, everyone loses. There are 2 main ways to prevent enemies from dealing damage to you. Option 1, defeat them. That's right, the best defense is sometimes a good offense. Defeated enemies go away into the void and can no longer harm you. Only enemies still remaining in your zone will attack during the enemy phase, and new enemies do not get revealed until the end of that enemy phase. Option 2, make shields. That's right, sometimes the best defense is just plain old defense. Shields can be gained through various abilities as well as geo reactions. If you have shields when you take damage, these shields are decreased instead of your health. Shields are temporary, however, and will always go away at the start of the player phase. As you defeat these enemies, they will all drop some amount of Mora. That's right, the Cold Heart Cache created by our Lord Archon Morax is somehow embedded into the bodies of monsters across Teyvat. You figure it out. Mora is incredibly important, however, because every single card in your deck has an upgraded version. By spending 5 Mora, you can upgrade any card in your hand. Chuck that old basic card into the void and replace it immediately with a new, shinier, upgraded version. You can use this upgraded card as soon as you get it. How generous! Additionally to Mora, there's one other resource you can gain, and that's energy. Some actions will generate energy, but the best way to generate it is through elemental reactions, especially Hydro ones. When you have enough energy, you can spend that energy in order to activate elemental bursts. These are the most powerful abilities of each of your characters and can really save the day when properly timed. Each elemental burst costs a certain amount of energy, and as long as you have the energy to pay for them, you can keep using them. Using an elemental burst does not use up any actions either, so burst away. The back row of enemies in each player's zone are royals. These are the meanest, baddest enemies in the game, so you better come prepared. Once you've dealt with these fellas, however, the boss of the game will finally reveal itself. There are 3 bosses in the base game to choose from, each with unique abilities and mechanics. Defeating the boss is how you win the game, but be careful. The boss is revealed when any player defeats all of the monsters in their zone. Once the boss is revealed, it will attack and affect all players, even those with enemies still left in their zone attacking them. That doesn't mean you can take your sweet time to confront the boss, however, because there's a turn limit! Did I forget to mention that? Oh, sorry. At the end of each player phase, this giant clock hand will progress by 1. Once it circles around the entire clock, the game is lost. On the bright side, however, once the boss is revealed, the clock also disappears. Oh, and did I mention that as the clock progresses, leyline disorders will get revealed, introducing all sorts of hazards or even boons? Yep, this game has really got it all. So, work together with your allies, play your cards carefully, and spend those resources to upgrade your cards and activate elemental bursts in order to win in Genshin Tarot, the fan-made Genshin Impact Board Game. This has been your How to Play in under 5 minutes. I hope you enjoyed the game, and if you have a Steam account, be sure to favorite and thumbs up our free Steam Workshop mod on Tabletop Simulator. Thank you, and have a good day.